Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Glad everybody's here. As I expected, rain today in Maine. But it's not been heavy rain, it's just mostly drizzle, but you know, it comes and it goes, and it, you know, so anyway, that's what you get when we have 3 days of nice weather, right? When we get friggin' rain for the weekend, just when everybody wants to enjoy the weather, that's when the weather's rotten. So you never can plan for the weekends in this state to do anything special unless it's someplace indoors, you know. But if you're going to do anything outside, bring an umbrella. Wear plastic. You know, that's how it goes. Anyway, I got a couple of videos here today to review with you people, and the first one's from Michael Polpak from Midas Touch, and he's talking about how Trump is pissed off as all merry hell because the Supreme Court ruled against him 7-2 on his bullshit denying people due process, exporting them out of this country under the Aliens Enemies Act or whatever the hell. Okay, and so he's been posting and getting mad and having hissy fits. So let's go and watch that video, then we'll discuss it on the other side.
Did Donald Trump just get broken over the Supreme Court's knee? Is he about to cry? What is happening? But Donald Trump knows what's happening. He's on a losing streak that's so bad that even Justice Kagan yesterday during oral argument noticed it. And that was before the new order came out 7-2 against Donald Trump and his use of the Alien Enemies Act at this particular moment by the Supreme Court. They knew they were going to rule against him during that oral argument. Yesterday during the oral argument, he was like, oh, it's so confusing. Why can't they just let me do what I want? Now he's issued a new social media post that basically starts, I mean, I'm telling you, the guy is losing it. He's about to shed tears over this, that the Supreme Court won't let him in the middle of the night remove and deport people and send them without due process to the dark gulags of foreign countries. I'm sorry that you are the president of the United States. I'm sorry that you didn't wake up in Cuba or North Korea or Russia. I know, run for when you leave here. In a rail or otherwise, why don't you go move to another country where you can be a fascist dictator that doesn't have our Constitution or our Supreme Court? You won't have to worry about it anymore. You know what I worry about? Only things that matter to Midas Touch and Legal AF. I'm so glad you're here. Let's take a minute to talk about what happened. I already did a hot take about an hour ago, but now I got the new one about Donald Trump crying over it. Here's what happened. This is no, I don't know why this is a shock to Donald Trump. 4 weeks ago, the exact same 7-2 lineup of the Supreme Court, except for Alito and Thomas, all ruled against Donald Trump and said you can't send any more people to El Salvador in the middle of the night or any other time of day without due process and notice, and giving them 24 hours or 48 hours while we as a Supreme Court make an ultimate ruling about whether you have or have not properly exercised war powers is not fair. It's not constitutional. It's not due process. Pump the brakes. They issued that order at 1 o'clock in the morning 4 weeks ago. We said, isn't that interesting? Isn't that odd? The Supreme Court got their act together, and after 24 hours of an application being filed with it by the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, they ruled against Donald Trump. That wasn't the first ruling against Donald Trump in this area. He's now lost 4 times, including in the last 24 hours. He lost, and this is all in deportation and immigration and removal. He lost 9-0 in the Abrego Garcia case. And boy, is that Judge Zinn is hot about that. So hot, I got to do another hot take. So on Abrego Garcia, 9-0 on what we call this case, which is AARP, not that one, in Texas. He's lost twice, 7-2, and he lost another one we call JGG, 6-3. He's on a losing streak, an epic losing streak, and now he's about to cry over it. Get an effing grip. I have no respect for you, but I'd have a lot more respect for you if you'd stop whining. I'd say like a little girl, but I have a little girl, and I assure you, she does not whine this way, and she's not yet a year. Here's what Donald Trump, I got to just read it to you. Here's what Donald Trump posted. The Supreme Court has just ruled that the worst murderers, drug dealers, gang members, even those who are mentally insane, well, it takes one to know one, who came into our country illegally are not allowed to be forced out without going through a long, protracted, and expensive legal process capitalized, one that will take possibly many years for each person, and the one that will allow these people to commit many crimes before they even see the inside of a courthouse. All right, stop. Stop. The Supreme Court is not opening up the jailhouse doors and letting anybody out. Even Mr. Abrego Garcia, when he comes back to the United States, is not going to be having dinner with his family in Maryland. They stay in detention. They stay on the American side of this process in detention until they get before a federal judge by writ of habeas corpus to make a decision about their guilt or innocence, or whether they are or are not an enemy combatant under the Alien Enemies Act. So see this boogeyman, this phony, they're going to be out raping and committing crimes while they get due process? Wrong. They're not given bail. They're in detention, but they're just not in detention in El Salvador where we can't give them due process. So that's the first, what's the line? The first Pinocchio on Donald Trump. Long, protracted, and expensive legal process. Okay. We know from prior reporting that Donald Trump during his 100-day interview tour told various interviewers that he doesn't understand the due process. He doesn't understand the Fifth Amendment. He doesn't understand why he has to give any level of due process to anyone as the commander-in-chief and under his constitutional requirements under Article 2 of the Constitution. He just doesn't understand it. Yeah. Okay. And the other canard in here, the other falsehood, the other misstatement, the other, what's the word I'm searching for? Lie of Donald Trump to the American people is that these are all going to have to be individual cases. They're individual cases because Donald Trump keeps arguing with his Department of Justice that they can't be grouped together in a class action, grouping together all similarly situated people in one group. Every time the ACLU or one of the other public interest groups tries to bring this to one judge with one class action, Donald Trump's lawyers jump up and down and say, it's not a proper class. Every time he tries to get a nationwide injunction, they run to the Supreme Court and ask to have nationwide injunctions taken away as a remedy by a federal judge. That just went on an oral argument, just yesterday, just on Thursday. So Donald Trump speaks with forked tongue, I guess is the right way to say it. On one hand, he's arguing with the American people, criminals are going to be let out of the jail. They're all going to have individual trials for years. They're going to stay in detention. And if you would stop fighting class actions or nationwide injunctions, you wouldn't have to worry about this in individual cases. But they really want individual cases. This came up during the oral argument at the Supreme Court on Thursday. That's the point. They want to divide and conquer. They want hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of federal judges to have to make rulings. Maybe they get around to appealing it. Maybe they don't. Now that is at odds. And now it's interesting. This new ruling that just came out, and I'll read more from his bullshit social media post. This new ruling that just came out explains things that happened yesterday during the oral argument. Now it's all becoming clear. And Donald Trump doesn't get it. The Supreme Court wants the fundamental issue of whether his use of the Alien Enemies Act was right or wrong, constitutional or not, brought before them quickly. And they don't want to be pressured by having to worry about human beings being transported under cover of darkness without due process to El Salvador. And so they put an end to the process. And they've ordered the trial courts to get the matter to them quickly so they can make an ultimate ruling as a Supreme Court, consistent with what they said yesterday during the oral argument. The result, back to Donald Trump, and he's about to cry. I think he's really about to cry here. I think that's why he does it in social media posts, and he doesn't actually take to the airwaves, because I think he would cry, and his handlers probably are worried about it. The result of this decision will let more criminals pour into our country, doing great harm to our cherished American public. I don't understand. I mean, if ICE has the ability to pick up somebody for true violations of our immigration law, then they get them before an immigration judge and give them notice. Or if they're going to use the Alien Enemies Act, then the writ of habeas corpus gets them before an Article 3 judge. Either way, they get some level of due process. But I don't think anything Donald Trump now that he's doing is incentivizing more illegal immigrants. I don't think any undocumented are going, now is a perfect time for us to enter the United States. We've been waiting. The coast is clear. Let's sneak in. No, who's saying that? Nobody. It will also encourage other criminals to illegally enter our country, wreaking havoc and bedlam wherever they go. I mean, this is just like, back in the 1920s and 1930s, they had documentaries that were made about the perils and the harm of smoking marijuana. Mary Jane. It was, reefer madness. They used to show it in college when I was in town. It'd be like somebody smoked a joint and then they went crazy and raped the town and murdered people. Yeah, but that wasn't true. That was propaganda. And this is nothing except for Trumpian propaganda at the highest level. The North Koreans and the Russians are like, wow, he just out-propaganded us. The Supreme Court of the United States is not allowing me to do what I was elected to do. He thinks because he beat Kamala Harris that he gets to put our Constitution in a cage and lock it away and not abide by it. But I got 7 battleground states. Okay. It doesn't matter. I don't care, because Donald Trump doesn't understand history. Ronald Reagan won every state in the country electorally, except for Minnesota against Walter Mondale. This is not exaggerating. He won 49 out of 50 states, 500 plus electoral votes. Now that's a mandate, and that's a landslide. And even Ronald Reagan didn't believe that he had just been elected the Fuhrer or Mussolini or Il Duce, they knew he was still the president of a United States of America in a constitutional republic, but not this president, not this crying, whining, weak, deflated president. So sleepy Joe Biden. Oh, here we go. This is like, it's beyond a broken record. This horse is dead and buried, and there's been a cremation. Why are we still beating it? Sleepy Joe Biden allowed millions of criminal aliens to come into our country without process. No, that's not true. They went through an immigration process. They were given temporary protective status. They were given some sort of immigration status. But in order to get them out, we have to give them extended process. In any event, thank you to Justice Alito and Justice Thomas for attempting to protect our country. This is a bad and dangerous day for America. So here's the reality. The Supreme Court finally stood up for itself and has consistently done so in the last 4 decisions against Donald Trump. He's on an epic losing streak at the Supreme Court. It does not mean history is not prologue. It does not mean that he's going to continue to lose on other things, including the case from 2 days ago about birthright citizenship and the use of nationwide injunctions by federal judges. But it does mean that when Donald Trump doesn't just push the envelope, burns down the whole stationery store, that they're going to stop him from his worst excesses. Here's what the 7 out of the 9 could agree on. I'll give you the rundown that Donald Trump finds offensive. That people who are accused of crimes or being terrorist combatants under the Alien Enemies Act, or are put in detention and captured and arrested administratively or otherwise by the United States, are entitled to levels of due process. If they are being sent out on immigration law, then you get before a immigration law judge, administrative law judge, who's an immigration judge, with due process, notice, properly Spanish translators, and a lawyer on the other side. If you're being sent away on Alien Enemies Act, then the court has already ruled in the last 2 months that you have to do it through a writ of habeas corpus, Didn't say anything about class actions. It could be done by class actions. A federal judge then sits in judgment. You got the evidence. You want to prove these people are bad people or rapists, terrorists, and mentally, criminally insane. You bring it to the judge. I'm not sure criminally insane is part of it. And then they make the decision. But they all agree, 7 out of 9, that Donald Trump has to be stopped from deporting and removing people, expelling people to a foreign country away from the jurisdiction of federal courts to do their work to protect and defend the habeas corpus and due process rights of these individuals, period. And that is a consensus, 7-2. The only two out there, Alito and Thomas, are like, well, there's a jurisdictional issue here. I'm not sure it's time or ripe. We should have let this percolate some more down at the lower courts. Who cares if human beings are sent off to El Salvador? Who cares if once they're there, Donald Trump says he can't get them back and they were kind. They could have wrote in the order they didn't like the fact that Donald Trump tormented and trolled the Supreme Court and said, you're never getting Abrego Garcia back with a New York Times article graffitied on there. But, I guess the boiled down of this hot take is Donald Trump believes that when he posts these social media posts and is about to cry, that it moves the needle somehow with the American public. And I think it doesn't. I think this button he keeps pushing isn't connected to anything. It's like the elevator that you're trying to make come down faster. It's just not connected to anything because the American people have sort of cut the cord with Donald Trump and we're helping them. You're here on the Midas Touch Network. So many great things because of you. Midas Touch podcast, number 1 and number 5, depending upon the poll you look at. They won the Webby. Legal AF ended up in the top 100, number 64 in all podcasts in the world in the brand new YouTube rankings. Popok's Intersection podcast, which is on Legal AF, the YouTube channel, that ended up top 100 in the country, in the world, as well as a podcast. All because of you. Take a moment, hit subscribe here on Midas Touch. Legal AF, the YouTube channel, Legal AF MTN, hit the subscribe button. And the Substack for Legal AF is a poppin'. And we posted, for instance, this particular written opinion by the Supreme Court that I've been talking about at length now for 14 minutes. Find it on Legal AF, the Substack. Until my next reporting, I'm Michael.
So my number one question here is this: considering what Trump's been doing when courts make rulings that he doesn't like, is he going to accept what SCOTUS says, or is he just going to ignore them like he's been ignoring all these other courts? And if he does, what then? Okay, what's going to happen then if he decides that he's going to go ahead and continue to do what he's been doing? I really don't know. Honestly, I don't know. It seems to me like the courts can rule against him and, as much as they want, but Trump has no respect for the courts. Okay? He's got no respect for other people's due process, even though he spent a good portion of his life in court enjoying the privilege of having due process bestowed on him. But he wants to deny it to other people. Okay? So if he was to learn the value of due process, he never really did, because it only matters to him that he gets it, only due process only for certain special people. It's a very exclusive due process, okay? And, it's very hypocritical of him to complain about, we need to get the criminals out of this country. At the same time, he's pardoned all of the J6 criminals, and he brings in new ones from other countries like the El Chapo family there. Okay. It doesn't really make any sense. It's like there's certain criminals that he doesn't like, and I think, criminals is just a cover for what he's really talking about, and that's just people of color or brown people, whatever. He doesn't like Latinos, and he would just prefer to export all of these migrants and immigrants and whatever out of this country and never return. All right, I think that's really what he's talking about. So it's easier to do that by labeling them as criminals. And when he does that, people feel like it's okay to hate him. All right. And Stephen Miller, who's advising Trump, he's doing this in the most fascist way possible because he knows how to manipulate Trump. And I think, you know, Stephen Miller is really kind of the ear in his head. I mean, the mouth in his ear, basically. I'm sorry. He's the one whispering shit into Trump's ear, basically feeding Trump what he, you know, basically more shit. And he figures, oh, I can manipulate this fucking guy here to do whatever the hell I want, you know. And of course, that means Stephen Miller is also a bigot, you know. And what he's doing is basically prodding this shit along as it goes. But you know, on the other side of this thing, you know, we got Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito there, who were the two dissenting people out of the 9. Again, do these two people realize that their job is about upholding the Constitution and not standing against it? I mean, have they forgotten that in their time as Supreme Court justices, or was that just another falsehood that these people got their jobs by telling people what they wanted to hear, and then once they got in there, they just started doing things their way? Okay. And I feel like that's kind of what's going on here, because if these other 7 justices could understand, you know, the reason behind Trump following due process, because it is an American thing, okay? If Trump is going to defy it, and you get 2 justices that'll stand with Trump on that, they should suffer the same consequence as Trump, okay? The same, you know, as, you know, all the other people in Trump's administration, like Homan, Bondi, okay, all these other people doing what Trump's asking them to do and concerning immigration here and denying them due process. They all should be all lumped together and brought to court, tried for their crimes, because they are crimes. When you defy the Constitution, that is a crime. All right, and Trump can bellyache, cry, and act like a 2-year-old all he wants about this, but these were things that were in place even before he was born. Okay, this is the things that this country has stood on and used throughout its life, and I think, you know, in the most part, people appreciate that system. Even though, you know, it's not perfect, okay? There is no such thing that is perfect that's made by man, but it is a system that we have held in, you know, in our country. We won't sacrifice it, okay? The idea of innocent till proven guilty is something that, you know, it sounds good, but usually it doesn't work that way. But the thing of it is that if we hold on to our system of justice, okay, and we improve it instead of destroy it, we could end up with a much better system. But you see, Trump just doesn't want that system. He wants to be a king, and the king gets to tell people what they are, okay, where they go, and what happens to them. And he wants to be the final word on that. And if we have a government who's willing to side with Trump instead of what the Constitution says, then all those people who chain themselves to Trump should go down together. All right? They really should. So, you know, ICE out there doing what it's doing is illegal. It's illegal. They're breaking the law. But because they wear uniforms and they work for the government, people, you know, figure they're untouchable. Bullshit. Okay? We have prosecuted cops, we've prosecuted judges, we've prosecuted all kinds of people in authority in this country's history for doing the wrong thing. Now, if ICE wants to continue to follow what Trump and Stephen Miller and Homan are telling them to do, okay, then they are also going to be people held accountable to that. They don't have to follow those fucking orders because they ought to know. They ought to know. It's what they're asking you to do is wrong. Even in the fucking military, people. I was in the military. If a commanding officer asks you to do something that was illegal, it's your duty to disobey and to report that officer. There's even accountability on that score. All right? I was told that very early on when I joined the service about that. It was spelled right out to me in the classroom work that we did. Okay? Orders have to be lawful, and they have to be right. Okay? But it is our duty not to follow those orders if it endangers other people's lives or it's illegal. Okay? You know, if you see an officer, let's say, doing drugs or some fucking thing, I don't care. Whatever it is, it's not right. It doesn't belong in the military. You have a duty to report that. Okay? And that's that same philosophy should be working in our government today. Okay? When somebody's doing something that ain't right, you have to hold them accountable for it. And the justice system has to be there to do just that. But up to now, Trump's been ignoring the justice system, and they've been letting him ignore it. And that's not right. The accountability simply isn't moving like it should. Now, I'm not going to say that it's not doing the right things by making these rulings like they did here. But if they can't back it up with some kind of implement to force Trump to capitulate, it's like, well, what's the point? I mean, is it really difficult for people to understand that, what we want in this country is we want criminals held accountable. Deport them, put them in prison, whatever. What we don't want is to see innocent people mixed up in that. Okay, that's what Trump's doing. He's not getting rid of criminals. He's putting everybody he doesn't like on that list of criminals just so he can watch them get kicked out of this country. And he doesn't want to go through the process of the court system and due process because he knows a lot of these people would be found innocent and they would stay. But he doesn't want them to stay. He wants them to go. And that's why he's been mocking the Supreme Court with Pam Bondi at his side, telling them, Garcia's never coming back into this country. I don't care what you say. If he comes back in here, we're going to redeport him. In full defiance of the court, he's throwing he's throwing shit at him. Saying, I don't care. He's not coming back. He's never coming back. And I believe Trump means that. And I also believe that puts Garcia's life in danger because if the fate has it, that he's going to come back, he would probably ask that son of a bitch in El Salvador to execute that guy or, do something. And we'll just say, oh, he tried to escape and we had to shoot him. Okay? Just to get his way. Just to be mean-spirited about it and a child. He would have something done to Garcia so he'd never come back to this country, physically or whatever. I would expect Trump to do something like that. Why doesn't he go after the Aryan Brotherhood in Texas? Okay, they've been stirring up a fucking storm in that state. Those are criminals. Don't see Trump or ICE going after them. Again, more evidence that says he's only focusing on certain people he can't stand. That's why I keep saying after he's run out of Latinos to export, he's going to go after African Americans and anybody else he doesn't like. Remember, Trump's father was in the Klan. Okay, he attended Klan rallies. So, be aware of that. But it's really sad because the longer this goes on, where Trump keeps ignoring the courts, the less faith this country will have in the courts themselves. That, if you're wealthy or you're the president, you are above the law. The law can scream, holler, and yell all at once, but in the end, you're still in charge, you're still the president, you're still doing what you're doing, and it's not showing to the rest of the world that law and order is something we give a shit about, because up to now it doesn't seem like it has. While Trump's been in office, he doesn't seem to care about the courts. You know, I don't think Trump really gives two shits what the courts think, but he's got everybody else in his administration fighting on his behalf in the courts, just to, I don't know, give people this idea that, you know, or just to shut them up, like, oh, see, we're fighting this out in court, oh, I'm mad and everything that, you know, the Supreme Court ruled against me, but at the end of the day, I don't care what they think. He's just mad because he thought those justices he put in there would all stand with him on this, and not all of them did. Okay, so I think if there's any reason that he's mad, it's because of that. But it's very hard to be a Supreme Court justice and stand against due process. That's like being a justice and standing against being a justice. Okay, I mean, it's really that dumb, you know. But somehow, you know, like Clarence Thomas and Alito can make a stand like that, and they seem not to have any self-awareness of just how stupid that looks, how ironic it is, you know. You know, and especially for Thomas, you know, with his kind of legal criteria, you know, he should have been convicted for the rape he was accused of, okay? Because basically, that's all it takes in this country to get deported, is to be accused of being a criminal. You don't have to have the evidence. The government will fabricate that evidence for you to justify it after the fact. And that's what they did with Garcia. They come up with all kinds of shit after the fact. They wouldn't tell the goddamn press any proof. They were just saying, well, this agency knew that he was a criminal. They declared an MS-13, whatever the fuck that is, okay? And at the same time providing nothing to the press to deliver to the public to show that, okay, so they were justified in bringing him out. No. It took, what, weeks later, then we get this photograph of his hand with this tattoo on it that looked like it was doctored on there, to be honest, okay? And that's so far as all we've gotten from them. That's not proof, okay? His face wasn't even on that fucking picture, for one thing. It could have been anybody's hand, or it could have been his hand, but the little tattoos doctored on there afterwards, okay? It doesn't prove a goddamn thing. So if you were to take that to court and say, this is the reason why we don't, this, you know, court with the jury or whatever, they'd say, what the fuck? This ain't, you know, this does, no, get that out of here. That's not evidence. Sorry, reasonable doubt. Grace, you know. So it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work in court, what they said. So they have no evidence because there isn't any evidence. Okay? He's not a gang member. He never committed any crimes. Until they can prove to me otherwise, convince me I'm wrong, then I'm going to continue to say that he's innocent. And he has no criminal background. He was just pulled out because his name was already on the list because Trump brought him into this country from El Salvador, yes, or was it Venezuela? I can't remember. It wasn't El Salvador. It was another country. But brought him in here under our protection. Okay, he requested asylum and Trump gave it to him. And he's been here since, well, he was here since 2019. Okay, so I think, you know, that name in his, you know, shows up on the list, you know, because he's, you know, I guess he's he wasn't a citizen yet, okay, but I'm pretty sure he was trying to be one. And his name shows up, and, you know, where's Trump then? This is your guy. You brought him into this country, and now you're like, get him out of here. Wow. Nice guy, huh? It's like, you know, whose side are you on anyway? But like I said, you know, a little bit ago, you know, Trump sets this fucking example for his government to follow, okay? Basically, he's the one that they're following. Whatever he says, they do. Well, they're not the only ones following his fucking example, okay? The regular people in this country, the citizens, are also being influenced by this fucking jackass, okay? They really are. And that takes us to the next video that's going to be coming up after this commercial break. So let's go to that and we'll come back and discuss it.
I'm Alex Curtis, I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins, I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
I thought I'd just get head spins, not nicotine poisoning.
Oh my god. His vape taped.
I wanted to be social. I didn't want the addiction that took over.
I thought it was just a bit of fun, but not being able to breathe because of lung damage is definitely not fun.
It's proven that vapes cause real harm. Every vape is a hit to your health. For more proof, search vaping harms.
Stephen Miller designed it. Donald Trump demanded it. Kristi Noem and Holman ordered you to do it. Illegal deportations, mass raids, rounding up people who are here legally, arresting citizens, family separations, snatching students off the street for tweeting, detention without hearings, shipping them to foreign prisons, deportations defying court orders. When government agents like you abuse your power, when you trample civil and constitutional rights, you can be held personally liable in civil court. You can lose everything, and Trump can't pardon you. That includes ICE, that includes CBP, contractors, DOJ, even the White House. Yep, every last Trump official pulling the strings. Even, well, especially the lawyers. If you think you're safe behind badges and titles, you're wrong. You do a hard, dangerous job. You're vital to our security. But what they have you doing now isn't law enforcement. It's just lawless, and you'll pay the price for following illegal orders.
Hey guys, what's up? Have you heard about the blue salt trick for men? This interesting method has been gaining some attention, and if you're looking to boost your performance, energy, and blood flow, this could be the natural solution you've been searching for. So, what exactly is the blue salt trick? It involves using mineral-rich blue salt to improve circulation and support overall vitality. Many people claim it helps with increasing endurance, and even boosting performance in the bedroom. Sounds intriguing, right? But here's the catch. Not everyone has access to high-quality blue salt, and even if you do, your body needs more than just minerals to perform at its peak. That's where Nitric Boost Ultra steps, which employs the same method of blue salt trick for men. Nitric Boost Ultra offers a scientifically backed, proven way to naturally supercharge your blood flow. It helps you feel stronger, last longer, and perform at your best with its powerful blend of nitric oxide boosters. One of the key ingredients in Nitric Boost Ultra is L-arginine, an amino acid that helps widen your blood vessels, delivering more oxygen and nutrients to your muscles. This translates to better endurance, faster recovery, and improved performance. It also includes L-citrulline, which works in tandem with L-arginine to maximize blood flow and stamina. But that's not all. Nitric Boost Ultra also contains essential vitamins and natural plant extracts to help your body maintain peak performance without any harmful chemicals or stimulants. No side effects, no jitters, just pure natural energy and strength. If you're thinking about trying the blue salt trick, go ahead. But if you're after a reliable, effective, and scientifically backed way to elevate your performance, Nitric Boost Ultra is your go-to solution. The best part? It's super easy to use. Take 1 scoop of the powder with a glass of water every day, or mix it in a smoothie or tea if you want. Within weeks, you'll feel more energized, stronger, and more confident in every aspect of your life. Ready to unlock your full potential? Don't wait. Try Nitric Boost Ultra today. Grab it directly from the official website to ensure you're getting the real deal. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you tried the blue salt trick? Or are you excited to give Nitric Boost Ultra a try? Drop a comment below and let's talk. That's all for today, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on more tips to keep you at your best. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Holy fuck.
Were you just checking out her ass?
No, I wasn't.
You know what? Fuck this.
Wait, babe, calm down. Oh my god. Mary! I am sorry!
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet, Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, I'll deal with that later. She's sleeping. Don't worry about it. Okay, anyway, coming back here to our show, welcome back. I had mentioned how Trump is setting the example that others copy in his administration, okay? But it isn't just his administration that's paying attention to what Trump's doing. We have regular citizens out there who are feeling emboldened to follow in Trump's racist boot steps, okay? So there's this fellow here that was caught detaining workers that he thought were migrants. And so let's go to that video here, and then we'll discuss that on the other side.
You got a big old Mexican right here. You don't even speak English, bro. What's wrong with you? They coming. Yeah, for me. For you.
Oh.
Yeah, that's me. You got caught, bro. Where you from? Mexico? You from Mexico? You're going back to Mexico.
Parky?
No, you cannot drive, bro. You have not a license. You have no license. We going back. We got the cops coming, bro. If you don't got a driver's license, you can't drive a vehicle. You know that, right? You know, if you don't have a license, you cannot drive a car in the United States. No, it's over. It's over.
An emboldened racist in South Carolina that's watched too many Tom Homan interviews decided to take his bigotry out on a couple of men driving to work.
Hey, Al Chapo.
Ya valí madre, no sé, güey. Dice que la migra. Aquí en la Atlantic 20.
Don't be speaking that pig Latin in my country, bro. Be speaking that pig Latin here. This is America. We speak English in America.
Ya me quitó la llave, me quitó todo, güey.
We speak English. English. ¿Habla English? No.
Dile.
You mad? You mad? You upset? This is my job. This is my truck. I own this country. No. They coming. The cops are coming. He doesn't even have a license. He doesn't have a license. I got his key.
Okay.
I got his key. Give me his key.
This is the America that Donald Trump promised a return to. One where ragtag pieces of shit like this guy feel like they have the right to harass and assault people based on their superiority complex, where their overwhelming ignorance, stupidity, and criminality is virtuous. The only problem is that this guy made his move before Trump's plan of controlling law enforcement kicks in, because Sean Michael Emmerich Johnson was arrested after turning himself in to the Sullivan's Island Police Department, and on Saturday he appeared in court virtually while his family stood with him. Johnson is charged with felony kidnapping, impersonating a law enforcement officer, larceny, and third-degree assault and battery after that video of him promoting the principles of MAGA spread across the internet. His attorney claimed that he was extremely sorry for his actions before his family said that they know he has mental health and alcohol issues, and they want to help him receive the treatment he needs, asking the judge to grant him bond. He turned himself in, Your Honor, and I can guarantee he is not going to be a flight risk, and he's not a danger to the community. So, of course, the judge saw past his domestic terrorism and granted him bond on the list of charges that he piled up in only a few minutes of making America great again. Just imagine if this guy was black or Latino, and their excuse for impersonating a federal officer while harassing and assaulting someone was that they're dealing with mental health issues and alcoholism. We treat him the same way that we treat people that Trump says are dangerous criminals that only understand punishment. So, to quote the president, think of it. They just catch and release these criminals. They release them all into our streets with no idea as to how or why more and more dangerous bigots like Sean Michael Emmerich Johnson keep popping up. But this is definitely one of the reasons.
Registered bounty hunters in Mississippi could get $1,000 for each successful deportation they facilitate. That's under the terms of House Bill 1484, which would create the, quote, Mississippi Illegal Alien Certified Bounty Hunter Program. A Mississippi District Attorney, Matthew Barton, proposed the bill, which was authored by Republican State Representative Justin Keene.
Well, this piece of legislation was brought about to fill a gap. We all have seen over the last 4 years kind of what the Biden administration has done to the ICE department. He's basically tried to shut it down to where it's non-functional. So House Bill 1484 was created to give us a neighborhood watch sort of gap for people that deal with criminals on a day-to-day basis. That's what bounty hunters, law enforcement, bail bondsmen do. So it's an information gathering to our higher up law enforcement community to then push that information to ICE so they can then act on that information.
All Sean Michael was doing with his drunk ass was being a good bounty hunter that works for his president's promise to get all those violent migrants out of the country. He was excited about the cops showing up, actually, because he was thoroughly convinced that what he was doing is exactly what Trump wants him to do.
As it does move forward, I did want to ask you, are there any maybe misconceptions that you feel that people have about this legislation or maybe the situation as a whole?
Well, I think the initial knee-jerk reaction for a lot of people is they see this and it says Illegal Alien Bounty Hunter Program, and they just assume that people are going to run rampant and just start scooping up individuals and start hauling them off. If you look at how Tom Horman has gone through this process, it's very tactful. They're going after the worst of the worst. They have files and information on people with criminal backgrounds here in the States that aren't supposed to be here, or they also have a criminal background from the country in which they came from. So this is no different. We want licensed legal people to go through a vetted process and then specifically target those that should not be here, that are a detriment to our national safety, our neighborhoods, and our schools.
And like Tom Homan's vow to go after violent criminals first, the lines get really blurry really quickly. His agency almost immediately raided a restaurant in New Jersey and detained a veteran, refusing to believe that he has the right to exist in America. So why should anyone trust the extension of their ragtag band of racists fueled by the perceived power of MAGA's biased approach to mass deportation? And if you think Sean Michael Emmerich Johnson came up with all of his ignorance and unearned self-confidence on his own, you haven't been paying attention to how consistently violent and angry this trash movement has been working to radicalize people just like him.
I don't know what you tell the people that live at the southern border. I guess they better arm up and get guns and be ready, and maybe they're going to have to start taking matters into their own hands.
It's crazy what's going on. They're ruining our country, and it's true. They're destroying the blood of our country. That's what they're doing. They're destroying our country. They don't like it when I said that, and I never read Mein Kampf. They said, oh, Hitler said that in a much different way. A lot of people coming out of the Congo, not just South America, they're coming from 181 countries as of yesterday. Right, and we're a dumping ground. We're like a garbage can for the world. That's what's happened. That's what's happened to we're like a garbage can. First time I've ever said garbage can, but you know what? It's a very accurate description. People pouring in. And they can look at them and they can see trouble. They go trouble, 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 no trouble, trouble, trouble. They can look at them and they can see good or bad. They could be healthy, they could be very unhealthy. They could bring in disease that's going to catch on in our country, but they do bring in crime.
You can not help, but don't impede us, and do not knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from ICE, because that is a felony.
And they're destroying the blood of our country. They're destroying the fabric of our country. And we're going to have to get them out. We're going to have to get mass numbers of these, especially the criminals. They're coming from jails, prisons. In Colorado, they're so brazen, they're taking over sections of the state. And, you know, getting them out will be a bloody story.
And this is one of the reasons why the rest of the world doesn't respect America. Not to say that racism doesn't exist in other parts of the world and other countries, but when people look at this country and they expect it to be a harbor of something better, of freedom, and they see how we're treating innocent people in this country, it brings down our image, and it creates this perception that all Americans are racist bigots, okay? And there are some that are. I'm not going to deny that. There are some that are, and they've always been there, even before I was born. There were always bigots in this country, okay? Way back, okay? That's been a thread of our society that we have tried in many ways to pull from the fabric of America, but it is very intertwined in our society because it relies on humanity evolving beyond that, okay? And as long as we stay mired in that ability to generalize and marginalize others, demean them, and, whatever, it's a thread we can't pull out. And I think, in my personal opinion, I think this country has allowed racism to simply continue and act like it's not there. And by doing that, they've allowed it to grow underground, basically, okay? And even though we know the organizations that push this racism and stuff, okay, that exist in this country, we don't stop them. We don't try to export them like Trump is exporting innocent people out of the country, okay? We don't try to expel the KKK from America. We don't try to go after the American Nazi Party and expel them, all right? Unfortunately, these outfits have their hands intertwined in our government. They donate big money to certain politicians. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? We're not like very serious about it. And I don't know when that's ever going to change. 200 years ago, we were still wrestling with this shit. 1925. And here we are 100 years later, and it's still alive and well in this country. So if it couldn't change in 100 years, we're going to have to probably wait another 100 years and see where we are then. But it's, you know, it's certainly something we're not really trying very hard, at least I don't think, to squash in this society. Because, geez, you know, if you think about getting rid of racism and people's bigotry to others, I mean, if you could do that, I think our society would change a lot for the better. Because once you stop demeaning other people, you start to learn how to care about other people. You start to take an interest in other people's well-being, because the opposite of hatred is compassion, right? So if you get rid of the hatred towards other people, then you obviously get them to feeling more compassion. And then you're not going to see people out there bitching about Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security should be gone. You're not going to hear talk like that, because people are going to be more apt to want to help other people, okay? And I think that might sound like, you know, fantasy right now, because it seems like it's impossible to try to get everybody to agree to being that way. You know, it's just, but I think that if we manage to, whenever that might be, in the 31st century or whatever the fuck, how long it takes, okay? If we ever manage to do that, we will be on the right track to create a society in this country, at least, of something that would be looked up at. You know, people would consider America to be something great again. That would be making this country great again. All right, or great for the first time, because really we haven't really had that kind of compassion in this country. We come close at times. I mean, think about it. We had people who created Social Security and all these programs, so there was a time when there was a little bit more people caring about others than there is today. And I think that if we start to walk back to that, that would be the track we're supposed to be on to make America great. All right? And somehow, you know, elements in our country have pulled us right off the fucking rails here, and we're just not going anywhere as a country. In fact, I think everyone can agree with me when I say that we're taking steps backward in this country to a time that, you know, is not going to be in line with the rest of the world, and it's going to leave us in the fucking background, in the back of the room, watching everybody else accomplishing all kinds of things. I still say the United States will not be the first country to step on Mars. It would probably be China at this point. China is going to be the country that's going to be leading this world for the next century. They are surpassing us right now, and you know, they're not afraid to you know, continue to become this powerhouse over there. Sure, they got problems. You know, every country right now today has issues that they have to contend with. But China is still on track, still, you know, pushing ahead. And the United States has decided to sit on its ass and just let, you know, eat itself alive with all its flaws, instead of trying to better ourselves and do great things. We've given up on that. At least that's what I feel that's happened here. We've given up on it. Somehow the idea of American exceptionalism, or being able to do great things in this country, just seemed to be like, nah, fuck it, you know, who cares? Nobody cares anymore about it, because we're either living lives that are very depressing and we don't feel like there's any hope. And when you take away that element of hope, people will just easily give up on things. And it's not a wonder we have a drug crisis in our country. You know, our youth are not performing well in school. They don't see any reason to go to school. They don't see any reason to live long, okay? You can't convince people to stop vaping if all they see is strife and struggle and people never getting ahead. Jesus, I mean, maybe that's one of the reasons why we've had so many school shootings in this country, is because kids just don't have any fucking hope. They figure, why the hell should I care about killing other kids? I mean, we're all gonna die anyway soon, you know, somebody's gonna, you know, that pessimism is like a virus in this country, and it's bringing all of us down, and we got the wrong person in the White House to give us hope, because he's not giving us hope. He's just fucking us over and giving himself all kinds of gifts and benefits. He's making out like a bandit while the rest of us are paying for his shit. Okay? He's the reason why pessimism continues in this country, and that's all we're going to get in this country as long as he's in the White House. We had a chance. We had a chance with Kamala Harris. You know, she made this country feel hopeful when she was running, but because of the pessimism, nobody believed it. Nobody could believe. Well, I mean, some did, but I'm going to say for the most part, nobody believed that, you know, she could be, you know, the shining light on the hill, you know. But it's certainly proven now that, hey, maybe we should have voted for her. People are, you know, even some people in MAGA, former MAGA nuts here, you know, okay, even they're saying, you know, we should have voted for her. Because they know damn well we wouldn't be where we are right now at this fucking moment, okay? No, we sold ourselves out. We sold ourselves short. We gave up on trying to be a great nation. And it's very odd for a guy who campaigned on making America great again, that the people that are voting for him are people who have given up on this country, okay, and pushed him into the White House for a second time. Okay, these people have no hope of making America great again. They're watching Trump, you know, destroy it even further. So these people are going to be even more hopeless after he's gone. This MAGA movement here, I mean, who are they going to MAGA next with, okay? I mean, it's just, you know, why would they bother? If the country is going to be so destroyed by the time Trump's done with it, they're not going to have any reason to be MAGA anymore. They're just going to, what, off themselves or something somewhere, you know, because they've given up? Because that's really the next step for them, you know. All their hopes that they thought Trump was going to bring have been dashed, you know, shattered and crushed under the boots of ICE and all of them, okay? That's all gone now. There ain't no fucking hope of making this country great. It's not going to happen. Not under him. Never under him. And so, as long as we continue to just forget about hope and just say fuck it to this country and who cares about America, and America, you know, if we keep thinking like that, people, we're never going to be a country that's great. Ever. You think the people that first founded this country gave up when things got difficult for, you know? No, they continued to push on. Every fucking generation pushed on through the good times and the bad times. All right? But for some reason, you know, we have some economic hardships and stuff, and everybody wants to give up on the spirit of being an American. They want to be a dictator. They want to be authoritarian. They want to be communist. They want to be this. They want to be that. That's all we've been getting from certain people in this country, is like how much better it is over here than it is in this country. Or, you know, it's like, you know what? You people have no fucking idea what this country's about. If you're thinking like that, you don't know what it is to be an American. You didn't learn anything about that when you was in school, and you should have been paying fucking attention to it. You know, you just didn't. Okay? And for a lot of you people, you don't even know what these other countries are like. Okay, you only know the word communism, but have you ever lived under that kind of a rule? No. For some of you, most of you, I don't think any of you even understand what that means. Because all you see is what they tell you on the TV. All you see is what they show you in movies, okay? But you don't fucking know. You've never had to live there. You talk to somebody that's in Russia right now, and you ask them what it's like living in Russia today. If you think it's so good, if it's better over there than it is in the United States, okay, then you go live there. Okay, that's you know, all I can tell these people. You need to try it out. Before you make an opinion about some other form of government being better than the United States, you go live in that form of government for a year. Just 1 year. And then you come back and tell me where you think is better. But for a lot of people, when they in this country here, where we see this kid here, I don't know how old he was, but for what he did, this is a kid who's deluded. I don't even think that his parents are really like upset that he did what he did, because how does a guy like that learn to be this way? Except, you know, he's got the wrong guidance at home. I think, you know, hey, the father, the mother, whatever, where he's from, they're probably MAGA people, okay? And he feels, you know, because you see what he did in this video here with this these two guys here in that truck. Very bold and open, you know, picking on them racist-wise. I mean, yeah, he's young, that's true. But young people, they don't learn to do this shit unless they get it from example from somebody else, an adult. And he's getting it from Trump, you know, the TV, the news, probably getting it from Fox, probably getting it from his parents. And now here he is going around behaving just like they do. All right, and when the kid's arrested or whatever for what he did, the parents obviously are going to pretend, oh, I had no idea it was that way, we're going to do something. Yeah, you're a fucking liar. All right? You're a fucking liar. Now that kid's going to grow up, and you're going to have a whole new generation of bigots because of this administration. Think about that for a minute. The young people today who are going around behaving like this young fella here, okay, they're going to be the new generation that's going to carry on that shit long after Trump's dead and buried. That's going to go into another whole generation. That's the reason why this shit keeps going on 100 years or 200 years later or 300. You know, it's because it's a generational thing. The white people teaching the white kids how to be racist and bigots. Okay? And it gets carried on. They don't even understand why they hate Latinos or black people the way they do. They just know that they're supposed to, because they never take the time to actually challenge their preconceptions, to actually sit down with someone of color that they've been told they're supposed to hate. Sit down and talk to that individual. Just talk, for Christ's sake. You can do that because we know you got a big mouth about everything else. You can talk to these folks, listen to them, and you know, you're going to find out that you both have some similarities, okay? Whether you want to like that or not, that's, you know, that's up to you. But the thing of it is, you're going to find that you got more in common with people that you're supposed to hate than not, okay? You're going to find that out. And the same goes for any other demographic out there that you've been taught to hate, okay? Same goes for them. You're going to find that you all have the same concerns, the same wishes, the same values for the most case, and goals, you know. And hell, you might even find out that people that you're supposed to like are living lives that you were taught that you're supposed to hate, but because they're white, you're you know, it's, you know what I'm saying, you're going to be confounded, because your programming is going to short circuit from that. So instead of just doing what's right, okay, which is such an easier thing to do, it's like telling the truth. If you tell the truth, you don't have to lie, and you don't have to remember all the lies you've been told, okay? The truth is so easy. It takes 10 seconds to tell the truth. It takes an hour to tell a lie, and another hour to back up that lie. So if you would just put aside your preconceptions and meet people face to face, one at a time, you would find that there's no reason I should hate this person. So what? His skin's darker, okay? He's not a disease. He's not a virus. He's not going to poison me, okay? It's his skin. My skin is just as good as his skin, all right? I could be spreading virus around myself, but because, you know, I'm white, I consider myself clean. No, all that shit's is just gonna dissolve. And then you're gonna be wondering why everybody hates these people so much. What did they do wrong? We got criminals in the white race. Christ. We got serial killers. We got all kinds of same fucking thing. One side is no better than the other. You got to take each person one at a time. Each person. That's how you judge whether or not, that person's right to hang around with or not, okay? There's been a lot of good people of various races that have come and gone in this world, and a lot of us, we've failed to recognize them because of our own bigotry. We never got a chance to meet these people. We never took the time to understand how great they were. And it's sad because we could learn a lot from people who value life over race, okay, who value people's personality and their intelligence, okay, over skin color or whatnot, okay. I mean, that's such a greater way of living our life in this world than it is to just demean people and chastise them, and spit on them or whatever the hell they're doing down there these days. But it's very the other way is the better way. Okay, this doesn't help anything. It only exacerbates a problem, and it creates people like monsters like Donald Trump, who eventually become president, and now our racism and bigotry is on full display around the world now. This is who we are. Okay. And I don't understand how so many people can be comfortable with that. But I think a person who is comfortable with that is a person who has really no class, or, really is a very demented person who needs help. They really do. If you're at home and you think Trump is great and you don't care that he's president, then I feel sorry for you, because you're living a life of lies. You don't even know what life is about. You don't. You just don't. You think you do, but you don't, because life isn't about being miserable and about hating other people. You've born into it, you've been raised in it, and that's all you fucking know. So how can anyone try to show you where you're wrong because you have a life history of believing that it's not that, okay? It's just impossible. It's like trying to teach an old dog new tricks. I mean, people are lost forever. You'll leave this world, and if there's a God, you're going to ask you, what did you learn? And all you're going to be able to espouse is this shit that you picked up here, the bad sides of humanity. You didn't take the time to learn about the good side of humanity because you don't think it existed. Your own pessimism blinded you. Your own lack of critical thinking tightened that blindness around you. You didn't challenge your beliefs. You didn't challenge any of that. Okay? You're just miserable people. That's really what MAGA is. And I wish that there was some way these folks could snap out of that. But I think when society in our country is like, going through these economic times like it is, it weighs a lot on people's minds, their feelings and their emotion, okay? And it creates desperation, and they're looking for answers, and the easy answers are always the answers that are not the right ones, okay? But it's because they can't think. They can't really understand why things are the way they are. They can't. They don't want to take the time to do it, or they just don't have the intelligence to. Some of us do, but, there's some don't. They just don't. And, we just can't educate them. They have to unlearn first what they've learned before they're willing to listen and be educated in the correct way. I mean, that's really the only thing you can do. All right, so that's it for today. I hope everybody has a great rest of the weekend. So subscribe, comment, share. Keep your ears open for health-related issues, and be good to your neighbors and be helpful to them when times demand it, and they are coming up quick. So do that. Things, you know, might look better when you start talking to other people. Who knows? But I'll talk to you guys another time, so take care, everybody.